You're 24, Marcus. Come back when you've got some real experience. Richard Thornton didn't even look up from his desk as he dismissed 3 years of my life. The promotion to senior financial analyst sat in that manila folder between us, my name typed on the recommendation form. Sarah Chin from HR had shown it to me yesterday, smiling. Congratulations, she'd whispered. Richard's signing off today. Except he wasn't. I stood there in his corner office at Meridian Financial Group, watching him scratch through my name with his expensive pen. The Seattle skyline stretched behind him, gray clouds matching my mood. But I've exceeded every target for 18 months straight, I said quietly. The Patterson account alone brought in $2 million. Richard finally looked up, his expression mixing pity and condescension. Marcus, you're talented. Nobody's arguing that. But clients want to work with someone who looks like they've been around the block. You look like you should be serving them coffee, not managing their portfolios. My hands clenched at my sides. 3 years of arriving early, staying late, and studying market trends until my eyes burned. 3 years of proving myself while watching less qualified people get promoted because they fit Richard's idea of what success looked like. I'm Marcus Chen, and until 60 seconds ago, I believed hard work mattered more than appearances. My parents immigrated from Taiwan when I was 2, opening a small restaurant in Seattle's International District. They taught me that excellence speaks for itself. Apparently, they were wrong. Richard slid a different folder across his mahogany desk. I'm promoting Derek Jameson instead. He's 32, been here 18 months. Clients respond better to his presence. Derek, who'd asked me to explain basic portfolio theory last month. Derek, whose biggest account success came from a client I'd referred to him. Derek, who spent more time golfing than analyzing market data. This is about age, not qualifications, I said carefully. Richard's expression hardened. This is about judgment, Marcus. My judgment as department head. If you can't accept that, perhaps Meridian isn't the right fit. The threat hung between us. I could push back and likely end up without a job, or I could swallow this injustice and hope things changed. I understand, I lied, standing up. Thank you for your time. As I walked back to my cubicle, I passed Derek's office. He was already hanging his nameplate, Derek Jameson, Senior Financial Analyst. The promotion I'd earned. That evening, I sat in my tiny apartment reviewing my options. My salary of $55,000 barely covered Seattle rent and student loans. I had $17,000 in savings, no family money to fall back on, and a burning anger that demanded direction. My phone rang. Mom's number. How did the promotion meeting go? She asked in Mandarin. I'd made the mistake of telling her about it last week. They gave it to someone else, I replied, switching to English. Someone with less experience but the right look. The silence stretched. Then, your father and I didn't leave everything behind so you could accept being treated this way. But we also didn't raise you to quit. She was right. Quitting would prove Richard correct. Instead, I opened my laptop and began documenting everything. Performance reviews showing I'd exceeded targets by 30%. Client testimonials praising my work. The Patterson account details showing my direct contribution. Then I did something that would change everything. I started studying company policies and began networking outside Meridian. If Richard wanted experience, I'd get it somewhere that valued talent over age. By midnight, I'd updated my resume and identified 3 competitor firms known for promoting based on merit. I also made copies of my work portfolio, carefully excluding anything proprietary to Meridian. Monday morning brought unexpected validation. Jennifer Park, one of my clients, called directly. Marcus, I just heard Derek's taking over my account. Is that true? Her tone suggested she wasn't happy. Yes, Mrs. Park. Company decision. But Derek's very capable. The lie tasted bitter. Derek couldn't explain the difference between bonds and equities when we met last month. I want you managing my portfolio, or I'm moving my business. She wasn't alone. By noon, 3 clients had called with similar concerns. Richard summoned me to his office at 2, his face red. You've been bad-mouthing Derek to clients, he accused. I haven't said anything negative to anyone, I replied calmly. But I also can't control who clients prefer working with. His jaw tightened. You'll transition your accounts to Derek professionally, or you'll be terminated for insubordination. That week, I helped Derek take over 12 accounts worth $8 million. I was professional, thorough, and documented every interaction. I also watched as Derek fumbled basic questions, making me translate complex strategies into language he could understand. By Friday, 2 clients had already moved their business elsewhere. Not to competitors, just gone. Richard blamed Derek publicly, humiliating him in a team meeting. I almost felt sorry for him. 3 months later, I interviewed at Cascade Investment Partners, a mid-sized firm known for aggressive growth strategies. The managing partner, Helen Okafor, was 52 and had built the firm from nothing. "Your numbers at Meridian are impressive," she said, reviewing my portfolio. "Why leave?" I considered lying, then decided on truth. I was passed over for promotion because of my age. They promoted someone less qualified with a more experienced appearance. Helen smiled slightly. "Richard Thornton's firm. I've heard stories. He's old school, believes success looks a certain way." She leaned forward. "Here's what I believe, results matter. You deliver, you advance. Age, appearance, background, irrelevant. Can you handle that kind of meritocracy?" "That's all I've ever wanted," I replied. She offered me a position as financial analyst, same title as Meridian, but with a $10,000 raise and a clear promotion track. Exceed your targets by 20% for 2 consecutive quarters, you move up. No politics, no favoritism. Just performance. I accepted immediately. Giving notice at Meridian was satisfying. Richard barely looked up when I handed him my resignation letter. "You'll regret leaving," he said dismissively. "Cascade is minor league compared to us." I smiled. "We'll see." Derek actually seemed relieved. Managing my old accounts had been overwhelming him. Cascade was everything Meridian wasn't. Smaller office, fewer resources, but hungry and innovative. Helen paired me with experienced analysts who actually taught me instead of hoarding knowledge. My cubicle had no window, but I didn't care. Within 6 weeks, I'd brought in 3 new clients from my personal network. Nothing from Meridian. I was careful about non-compete clauses, but people I'd met at industry events who remembered my work. By month 4, I'd exceeded my targets by 35%. Helen called me into her office on a Friday afternoon. "You're doing exactly what I hoped," she said. "I'm promoting you to senior analyst, effective immediately. 20% raise, your own team in 6 months if you maintain this pace." I was 25 now, exactly 1 year after Richard had told me to come back when I had real experience. The promotion came with a corner workspace and my first direct report, a sharp 22-year-old named Amy Rodriguez who reminded me of myself. "Teach her everything," Helen instructed. "Good talent develops more good talent." I remembered how Richard had hoarded information, keeping junior analysts dependent on him. I did the opposite, sharing knowledge freely, explaining my strategies, and encouraging Amy to challenge my thinking. 2 years into my time at Cascade, I was managing a team of 4 analysts handling $30 million in assets. We'd become known for aggressive but smart growth strategies, particularly in tech sector investments. My salary had jumped to $95,000, almost double what Meridian had paid. More importantly, I loved the work. Then Jennifer Park called. "Marcus, I need advice. My portfolio's grown substantially, and I'm considering moving everything to one firm. Are you taking new clients?" She'd left Meridian 8 months after I did, working with an independent advisor. Now she wanted to consolidate everything under my management. Her portfolio had grown to $4 million. "Mrs. Park, I'd be honored," I said. "But I should mention I'm at Cascade now, not Meridian." "I know exactly where you are," she replied. "That's why I'm calling. Richard Thornton's been trying to win me back for months. I told him I'm going wherever you are." She wasn't alone. Over the next 3 months, 4 former clients tracked me down. All had left Meridian after I did, dissatisfied with their new analysts. Together, they brought $12 million in new assets. Helen was thrilled. "You're building something special, Marcus." Client loyalty like this is rare. By my 27th birthday, I was assistant vice president with a team of 8. I started hearing rumors about Meridian around this time. Nothing concrete, just whispers at industry events. Client retention problems. High analyst turnover. Market share declining. I didn't pay much attention. I was focused on building Cascade's reputation and my own portfolio. Then Sarah Chen called. We'd stayed friendly after I left, occasionally meeting for coffee. Can we talk off the record? She asked. We met at a cafe far from both offices. Sarah looked worried. Meridian's in trouble, she said quietly. Richard's lost 15 major clients in 2 years. The board's pressuring him to turn things around. What happened? I asked, genuinely curious. He kept promoting based on the wrong criteria. Appearance over performance, connections over competence. His entire senior team looks impressive in meetings but can't deliver results. She hesitated. 3 of his best analysts left last month. They cited the same reason you did, no real path to advancement unless you fit Richard's profile. I felt a flicker of satisfaction but kept my expression neutral. That's unfortunate, but not my problem anymore. Actually, Sarah said carefully, it might become your problem. Meridian's board is demanding major changes. Richard's position isn't secure anymore. The implications hung between us. If Meridian collapsed, it would shake the entire Seattle financial sector. 6 months later, I was promoted to vice president at 33 years old. I now managed 18 analysts handling over $100 million in assets. My salary hit $160,000, triple what Meridian had paid. More meaningful than the money was the respect. Industry publications featured my strategies. Younger analysts sought my mentorship. Helen had given me exactly what Richard had denied, opportunity based on merit. Then the news broke. Meridian Financial Group was being acquired by Cascade Investment Partners. Helen called an emergency meeting with senior leadership. This is a major opportunity, she explained. Meridian has strong brand recognition but poor management. We're buying their client base and infrastructure, then restructuring completely. What about their staff? I asked. Case-by-case evaluation. We'll keep talent, cut deadweight. The managing partner role for the combined firm is open. I'm considering internal candidates. Her eyes met mine meaningfully. I was 33. The other candidates were all over 45. A week later, Helen offered me the position, managing partner of Cascade Meridian Financial Group. You've proven yourself over 8 years, she said. You build teams, retain clients, and deliver results. Age doesn't matter. Performance does. The salary was $280,000 plus equity. I'd be overseeing 200 employees and $500 million in assets. I accepted, knowing exactly what this meant. The merger integration began in January. My first task was evaluating Meridian's senior leadership team. Helen had given me complete authority over staffing decisions. Richard Thornton's file sat on top of the stack. At 58, he'd been with Meridian for 30 years, managing partner for 12. His recent performance was disastrous. 20% client loss over 3 years, department morale at record lows, and multiple HR complaints about discriminatory promotion practices. The recommendation was clear: termination with standard severance. But I had another idea. I called Richard's assistant and scheduled a meeting. Tell him it's regarding his position at the new firm, I instructed. When Richard walked into my office the following Monday, his confusion was obvious. He'd expected to meet with Helen or some board member, not me. Marcus Chin, he said slowly, recognition dawning. You're running this merger? I'm the managing partner of the combined firm, I replied calmly. Please, sit down. We need to discuss your future here. Richard sat stiffly, his expensive suit unable to hide his discomfort. I pulled up his file on my computer screen. Your performance over the past 3 years has been concerning, I began. Client retention is down 20%, employee satisfaction is at 32%, and Meridian's market share has declined significantly. The market's been challenging, Richard started. The market's been excellent, I interrupted. Cascade grew 40% during the same period. Richard's face reddened, but he stayed silent. I continued. I've reviewed exit interviews from analysts who left Meridian. A pattern emerges. Talented people, frustrated by promotion practices that valued appearance over performance. His eyes narrowed. If this is about that promotion years ago, you're being petty. This is about running a successful firm, I corrected. Your leadership style isn't compatible with our values. However, I'm not terminating you today. Richard looked surprised. You're not. I'm offering you a choice. You can take a severance package, 6 months salary, standard benefits, walk away cleanly. Or you can stay. Stay in what capacity? He asked carefully. Senior financial analyst. Salary $72,000, about half your current compensation. No management responsibilities, no client-facing role initially. You'd report to Amy Rodriguez, who's now a vice president. She's 31. The silence stretched. I could see him processing the humiliation. Former managing partner reduced to entry-level senior analyst, reporting to someone half his age, making a fraction of his previous salary. This is revenge, Richard said quietly. This is business, I replied. You have skills and experience that could be valuable if properly directed. But your judgment and leadership have been consistently poor. I'm offering you a chance to rebuild your reputation through actual performance. Richard stared at me, his expression cycling between anger, humiliation, and something that might have been respect. Why not just fire me? He asked. That would be easier, I admitted. But 10 years ago, you told me to come back when I had real experience. I'm giving you the same opportunity you denied me, a chance to prove yourself through work, not appearance. I slid 2 folders across the desk. These are your options. You have until Friday to decide. Richard picked up both folders, his hands shaking slightly. If I stay, what happens? You work under Amy's supervision. She'll assign accounts, review your performance quarterly, and make recommendations about your advancement. Exceed expectations consistently, you move up. Fail to meet standards, you're terminated. And if I take the severance? You leave with a neutral reference. I won't badmouth you, but I won't recommend you either. Richard stood slowly. This isn't fair, Marcus. Neither was denying me that promotion because I looked too young. Neither was promoting Derek Jameson despite his incompetence. Neither was building a culture where talent meant less than fitting your preferred image. I kept my voice level. But fair or not, this is your choice. Rebuild your career through actual merit, or walk away. Richard left without another word. I watched him go, feeling none of the satisfaction I'd imagined this moment would bring. Friday afternoon, my assistant buzzed. Richard Thornton is here. I'd honestly expected him to take the severance. Pride alone should have made him walk away. But Richard entered my office looking different. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something harder to identify. Resignation, maybe, or determination. I'll stay, he said simply. Under the conditions discussed? I asked. Yes. Analyst position, reporting to Amy Rodriguez, $72,000 salary. He hesitated. I need this job, Marcus. My divorce last year was expensive, and I made poor investment decisions. I can't afford to be unemployed. The admission surprised me. Richard Thornton, always so confident and dismissive, was now vulnerable and desperate. This won't be easy, I warned. Amy's tough, and she won't give you special treatment because of your age or previous position. I understand, Richard replied. When do I start? Monday. Amy will have your assignments ready. Your office is being converted to a conference room. You'll have a cubicle in the main analyst section. Richard nodded, accepting another blow to his pride. After he left, I called Amy into my office. Richard Thornton staying on as a senior analyst. He'll report to you. Amy's eyes widened. Your old boss? The one who blocked your promotion? The same. Can you handle it professionally? Can he? She asked pointedly. That's what we'll find out. Richard's first day was awkward for everyone. Analysts who'd worked under him months ago now saw him sitting in a cubicle, no longer their superior. Some looked satisfied, others uncomfortable. I'd worried people might treat him cruelly, but Amy set the tone early. She gathered the analyst team Monday morning. Richard Thornton joins us today as a senior analyst. His past position is irrelevant. Here, everyone's judged on current performance. Treat him like any colleague, fairly and professionally. It was more grace than Richard probably deserved, but it established the culture I wanted. Merit-based, but not cruel. Richard kept his head down those first weeks. He arrived early, stayed late, and didn't complain about assignments. Amy reported that his work was solid, if unspectacular. He knows the fundamentals, she told me, but he's rusty on current market trends. I've assigned him some training modules. By month 2, something interesting happened. Richard started mentoring a junior analyst named Kevin, a 23-year-old who struggled with client communication. I watched them working together one evening, Richard patiently explaining how to frame complex information for non-technical clients. It was teaching, not showboating. He's actually good at this, Amy observed, when he's not trying to prove he's superior to everyone. 6 months into Richard's new role, I called him into my office for his first formal review. He entered looking nervous, nothing like the confident department head who'd once dismissed me. "Your performance has been satisfactory," I began, pulling up his metrics. "You're meeting targets consistently, your client feedback is positive, and Amy reports you're a strong team player." Richard nodded, waiting. "However, you're not exceeding expectations. You're doing the job adequately, nothing more." "What do you want from me?" Richard asked, frustration creeping into his voice. "I want you to stop playing it safe," I replied. "You're doing the minimum to avoid failure. That's not who you used to be, even if your judgment was flawed." I pulled up an old file from his early career. 20 years ago, you were innovative. You took calculated risks that paid off. What happened?" Richard was quiet for a long moment. I got comfortable. Started caring more about status than success. Somewhere along the way, I forgot why I entered this field. "So remember," I said simply, "you have experience and knowledge. Use it. Show me the analyst you were before you became the manager I encountered." Something shifted in Richard's expression. "You really believe I can still contribute?" "I believe everyone can improve if they're willing to work for it." Richard took the feedback seriously. Over the next quarter, his performance changed dramatically. He started proposing innovative strategies, taking on challenging accounts, and pushing himself beyond safe mediocrity. He also did something I hadn't expected. He apologized. It happened during a company-wide meeting about diversity and inclusion in financial services. I was discussing the importance of evaluating people on merit, not assumptions about age, appearance, or background. After the meeting, Richard approached me privately. "That promotion I denied you," he said quietly. "It was wrong. Not just unfair, actually wrong. You were the best candidate, and I let my biases override obvious truth." I studied him carefully. What changed? Sitting in that cubicle, being judged on my actual work rather than my title, it clarified things. I thought leadership meant looking and acting a certain way. I was wrong. "And now?" I asked. "Now I'm trying to be the analyst I should have been, and learning from people like Amy who lead without needing to control everything." It wasn't absolution, but it was genuine. Richard had been humbled by circumstance, but he was choosing to learn from it. That counted for something. By his 1-year mark, Richard's performance had improved to the point where Amy recommended him for complex accounts. 2 years after Richard joined as an analyst, the firm faced a crisis. Our largest client, a tech company founder worth $50 million, was considering moving his entire portfolio elsewhere. He'd worked with Richard years ago at Meridian and requested him specifically for the transition meeting. I could have refused, assigned someone else. Instead, I asked Richard to handle it. "This is a major account," I told him. "You have the relationship, you understand his concerns. Can you retain him?" Richard met my eyes. "I'll do my best." The meeting lasted 3 hours. Afterward, the client called me directly. "Richard was impressive," he said. "Honest about past mistakes, clear about current strategies, and he didn't oversell. I'm staying." Richard's handling of that account became a turning point. Word spread that he'd successfully managed a crisis situation, and other analysts started seeking his advice. He became, almost accidentally, a mentor to the entire team. Amy noticed the shift. "He's found his role," she told me. "Not management, but senior guidance. He's good at it." I promoted Richard to lead senior analyst, a position I'd created specifically for experienced analysts who excelled at mentorship rather than management. His salary increased to $95,000, still well below his old managing partner compensation, but respectable. "Thank you," Richard said when I told him. "For what?" "For seeing what I could become instead of only what I'd been." 5 years after the merger, Cascade Meridian had become one of Seattle's top financial firms. We tripled our assets under management and maintained the highest client retention rate in the region. My leadership style, focused on merit-based advancement and developing talent, had created a culture people wanted to join. Industry publications wrote about our success, often mentioning my youth when I'd taken over. I was now 38, managing a firm that had grown beyond anything I'd imagined that day Richard rejected my promotion. Helen Okafor had retired, selling me her remaining equity and leaving me as majority owner. One afternoon, I received a call from a journalist writing about age discrimination in corporate America. "I've heard interesting things about your firm," she said, "particularly about Richard Thornton working under people he used to supervise." I chose my words carefully. Richard's an experienced analyst who's found a role that fits his strengths. "We evaluate everyone on current performance, not past titles." "But isn't there poetic justice in the reversal?" she pressed. "There's justice in a system that rewards merit," I corrected. Richard's story isn't about revenge. It's about someone adapting to a performance-based culture and finding success through actual contribution. The article, when published, focused less on Richard's demotion and more on our firm's approach to talent development. The 10th anniversary of my original rejection arrived without fanfare. I was in my office reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant buzzed. "Richard Thornton's asking if you have a few minutes." "Send him in." Richard entered carrying a folder. At 68, he showed his age more now, but he'd maintained the professional demeanor that made him valuable. "I'm planning to retire next year," he said without preamble. "Wanted to give you early notice." The news shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. Richard had become such a fixture of the analyst team that imagining the firm without him felt strange. "You'll be missed," I said honestly. "I want to train my replacement. If you'll allow it, I'd like to develop a formal mentorship program for senior analysts." "That's an excellent idea. Put together a proposal." Richard set down the folder. "Also, I wanted to give you this." Inside were documents detailing his years at Meridian before I joined. Performance reviews, client letters, innovation proposals. "This is who I was before pride corrupted my judgment," he explained. "I want you to understand that the person who rejected your promotion wasn't who I'd always been." I paged through the documents. Young Richard had been creative, hardworking, and genuinely talented. "What happened?" I asked. Richard sat down slowly. "Success happened. Early promotions, bigger office, more money. Somewhere along the way, I started believing my title made me superior rather than responsible." He gestured at the documents. "Those early years, I was hungry. I worked harder than everyone because I had to prove myself. Then once I'd proven myself, I stopped working that hard. Started coasting on reputation. And judging others by standards you'd stopped meeting yourself," I added. "Exactly. When you came along, young and talented and hungry like I used to be, you were a mirror showing me what I'd stopped being. Instead of recognizing that, I rejected you." Richard met my eyes. This decade working as an analyst again, it reminded me who I was supposed to be. Not management, not leadership, just someone who does excellent work and helps others do the same. "That's not a small thing," I said. "It's what this firm's built on." Richard nodded. "I know my reputation in the industry is damaged. The partner who fell to analyst. But here, I rebuilt something real. That's because you let me." "You did the work," I corrected. "I just provided opportunity." Which is exactly what I failed to do for you. Richard stood. I'll have that mentorship proposal on your desk next week. Richard's mentorship program became one of our firm's strongest features. He trains senior analysts to guide junior colleagues, creating a knowledge-sharing culture that improved performance across all levels. His retirement party, a year later, was attended by over 100 people. Analysts shared stories of how his guidance had shaped their careers. Amy Rodriguez, now executive vice president, gave a speech praising his transformation. Richard taught me that leadership isn't about being the smartest person in the room, she said. It's about making everyone in the room smarter. Richard's response was characteristically humble. I learned more here than I taught. Thank you for letting an old man figure out what really matters. After most guests had left, Richard approached me. Can we talk privately? We stepped into my office. Richard looked emotional. I need to say something I should have said years ago. Thank you for not destroying me when you had every right to. That was never the goal, I replied. Revenge doesn't build anything. You gave me something better than revenge, Richard said. You gave me a chance to earn back my self-respect. That last decade meant more than all my years as managing partner. We shook hands, a genuine gesture of mutual respect. Richard left the firm the next day, retiring to spend time with his grandchildren and do volunteer financial counseling. A few months after Richard's retirement, I received an invitation to speak at a business school about leadership and merit-based management. Standing before a lecture hall of students, I saw my younger self in their eager faces. 10 years ago, I began, I was denied a promotion because my boss thought I was too young. He told me to come back when I had real experience. I explained the journey that followed without mentioning Richard by name. Leaving Meridian, building my career at Cascade, eventually running the combined firm. When I finally had the opportunity to hire my former boss, people expected revenge. But revenge is short-sighted. It feels good momentarily but builds nothing lasting. I told them about Richard's transformation, his decade as an analyst, his eventual success as a mentor. The real victory wasn't in seeing him humbled. It was in creating a culture where he could thrive by doing actual good work. A student raised her hand. But wasn't it satisfying? Seeing someone who wronged you have to work for you? Initially, yes, I admitted. But satisfaction faded quickly. What lasted was pride in building something better than what I'd left. A place where talent matters more than appearance, where people advance based on contribution, not politics. The speech resonated. Several business publications picked it up, and my LinkedIn was flooded with messages from people sharing their own stories of age discrimination or unfair treatment. One message stood out. It was from Derek Jameson, the man who'd received my promotion at Meridian years ago. I've followed your success, he wrote. And I owe you an apology. I knew I didn't deserve that promotion. Richard told me you were more qualified but too young. I took it anyway because I needed the advancement. I'm sorry. I called Derek the next day. What happened after I left? I asked. I struggled for 6 months, then resigned, he admitted. Couldn't handle the responsibility. I've worked at 3 firms since, never quite finding my footing. Seeing what you built made me realize I should have spoken up back then. What are you doing now? I asked. Freelance consulting. It's fine, but I miss the structure of a firm. I thought about our values at Cascade Meridian. Second chances, merit-based advancement, focusing on contribution over past mistakes. We're hiring analysts, I said. If you're interested, apply through our website. You'll start at entry level, no special treatment, but if you work hard, you'll advance fairly. Derek was quiet. After how I benefited from Richard's favoritism? That was then. This is now. Derek joined our firm 3 months later. Like Richard, he started in a cubicle, reporting to Amy, earning far less than his previous positions. Unlike Richard, he adapted quickly, bringing a work ethic that had been absent years ago. Desperation and maturity did what comfort never could, he told me during his 6-month review. I finally appreciate what it takes to actually earn advancement. Watching Derek and seeing Richard's transformation made me realize something important. The culture I'd built at Cascade Meridian wasn't about revenge or proving myself superior. It was about creating a place where people succeeded or failed based purely on their contribution. Where age didn't determine opportunity, where past titles didn't guarantee future success, where hard work and innovation were rewarded consistently. My parents visited the office one afternoon. They'd sold their restaurant and retired comfortably, proud of what I'd built. "You did it right," my father said in Mandarin, looking around at the busy office. "Not by destroying your enemy, but by building something better." My mother nodded. "Richard worked for you in the end, but he also found dignity through honest work. That says more about your character than his downfall ever could." They were right. The story I was proudest of wasn't about humiliating Richard Thornton. It was about creating a firm where talented people of all ages could thrive. Today, 15 years after Richard rejected my promotion, I run a firm managing over $2 billion in assets. We're known throughout the industry for our merit-based culture and exceptional talent development. Former employees lead departments at other firms, spreading the values we established. I'm 43 now, finally old enough that nobody questions my authority based on appearance. But I remember being 24, talented but dismissed, angry but determined. That memory shapes every hiring decision, every promotion, every interaction with young analysts who remind me of my younger self. Richard Thornton passed away last year at 73. His obituary mentioned his later career renaissance, his mentorship at Cascade Meridian, and his influence on modern talent development practices. I attended his funeral and spoke with his daughter. "He talked about you constantly these last years," she said. "About how you gave him a second chance when you had every reason not to. It meant everything to him." I thought about that manila folder on his desk 15 years ago, my name scratched through with expensive ink. That moment of rejection had set everything in motion, but it hadn't defined me. What defined me was what I built afterward. Not a story of revenge, but a story of creating something better. Where talent mattered more than age, where second chances existed for those willing to work for them, where excellence was the only currency that mattered. That was worth more than any satisfaction revenge could have provided.